On today's episode of Don't Blame Me, we have Jarrett Sleeper, and we talk about a girl who's going to college and is feeling a little uneasy with the fact that her new roommate has suddenly befriended all of her high school friends and is trying to get lunch alone with her boyfriend. Is it weird? I think it's weird. Kind of reminds me of that movie, The Roommate, Leighton Meester. Good film. And we also talk about a girl and a guy who are friends, and the guy just suggested maybe they should lose their virginities to each other. Is it a good idea? Talk about the concept of virginity. Should you quote unquote get it over with your best friend, or should you get under your best friend? Keep listening. Okay, everybody. You can have a mug.
I was going to clap my hands.
Oh, no, you don't need to
Like,
clap.
I can't.
You don't need to.
I tried to put a button-up shirt on to look vaguely like human, and then it was just, I'm sweating.
Too hot. I have to wear a t-shirt during this.
Plus, I did that thing where you rush out of the house really fast after showering, and then you have your own cloud of sweat that just doesn't leave.
Yeah.
You bring humidity with you. Anyway.
I love it. It'll be good for my hair.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Don't Blame Me. If you are watching, you can see our guest in his fanny pack. You're on trend, by the way.
I like to think that I was really on the forefront of this trend and helping keep it go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love the fanny pack.
Oh my God, this is Jarrett, by the way, guys. I didn't do it. You guys, if you've seen another, video,
audio.
You'll never have seen me.
Then maybe you recognize his voice from a previous episode because you've been on before. We got a repeat guest.
Thank you for it. I'm very honored. Does it happen a lot?
You, Lily, Aislinn been on a lot.
I feel like that's good.
I actually think that
it's
might
an auspicious group.
That might be it. Yeah,
it might be it. You're only
hell yeah.
Yeah, you're in the three.
Sick. It was really fun. I love the people who ask questions on this, ask real juicy questions. Real juicy
Get ready.
situations.
Everyone's lives have gone down the drain.
Are you revisiting any of those people?
Oh no. I don't think so.
But because I didn't, research again. So.
No, but people are more comfortable now. So
yeah, they tell us everything. They tell us when they hook up with married guys.
Mm-hmm.
They tell us when their boyfriends have children with women that weren't them.
I think that is also part of a larger. I was thinking about this because I was vaguely thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to that show tomorrow. And I was thinking what kind of stuff do we talk about? Relationships. And I was thinking I'm getting real weird. I've all the social mores and things we're supposed to feel shame about that are kids. I realize I don't even think about them anymore.
Yeah.
Weed is illegal in some states still. And people can get arrested for it.
It's hard to wrap my head around.
Isn't it weird to think some people still think that's a drug?
Yeah, I know.
And that I don't even think real drugs are drugs.
I made that comment literally today. Where I was someone, where we were talking about the different kinds of addicts. And then I made some comment. I was like, well, this person was addicted to this and this, but those aren't real drugs. And they were like, that's still a real drug. And I was like,
I saw a meme the other day that was something you realize when you grow up is everybody does cocaine and it's not that good.
Oh God.
And I was like,
oh my God, I'm so scared of cocaine.
Did we talk about this last time?
Probably.
I tried cocaine a long time ago and loved it so much that I was I better never. It made me feel normal. And now since I learned about ADHD, there you go.
Yeah.
Broken dopamine receptors.
Yeah. Too scared. Too fucking scared.
Good. Don't do it.
Never. I don't.
It's bad.
It's
not worth it.
I got a new nose. I'm not going to shove shit up there.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
I'm not fucking doing that. That delightful laugh. Good segue. That's gonna be your new one. Are you going to start fake laughing?
You just get a soundboard of it.
Yeah.
And then I don't actually have to laugh.
You just sit over and be like, oh, I should laugh at that.
No, your mouth just doesn't match it at all. And you just see a closed mouth laughing. That's Melissa.
Hello.
And you're in pink. Are you going to sweat?
No, I'm good. I don't sweat.
Members only.
I glisten.
Okay, there you go. I was like, we work out together. Don't tell me you don't fucking sweat.
Some people are like that. It's weird. They their glands don't
I used to not sweat that much. And then I started working out. And then I was like, oh no, I can sweat.
Sweat for once you really do it.
Yeah.
I sweat so much.
Okay, guys. This is a podcast. This is Don't Blame Me. It's an advice podcast. If you guys are new here, you guys call in to the phone number 310-694-0976. Or you're international and you're cool and you're not under Trump's administration and you emailed us an audio file at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. And we're going to play those voicemails and we're going to give you guys some advice on your lives. Shall we go on?
Yeah, let's do some advice stuff.
Well, let's get in it.
I don't think I did.
Hi, Megan. I'm 19. I'm going into my first apartment after moving home after only a few months in the dorms. I started dealing with anxiety and depression, but now feel like I have overcome it pretty well. Knowing that move-in is approaching is making me pretty nervous that what happened last year will repeat. I'm going to be living with one of my good friends who I met last year and who also lived at home and commuted. She's been really great except for recently. This summer I invited her to hang out with my friends from high school a few times, and she got pretty close to them really fast. I'm glad that they can all get along, but it's gotten to the point of them hanging out individually without me and her wanting to go to lunch with my boyfriend to get to know him better. She's the nicest person, and I know she doesn't have bad intentions, but I just want her to focus on more of her life than mine. It seems like when we hang out alone, all she wants to talk about is them, which isn't very fun. How should I go about addressing this with her before I move in? I just want the best year possible and to go into it with a clear mind.
Why are we living with this girl? Do we have to?
Yeah, this is hard.
Don't know.
This one's hard from the
This is like
lack of context.
the Lied Meester movie. I knew you were thinking about that. We keep
Which one?
The one roommate, where she just like tries to become her roommate.
Isn't that like single white female?
It is like
Yeah.
single white female,
Yeah.
but they just keep making remakes.
Sure. Well, I don't even think that's that weird, you know? I think we all like share the same basic like tropey Jungian dreams, like Joseph Campbell, like the monomyth, but now like single white, the person who becomes you, your doppelganger and takes over your life. I think that's like an ancient fear,
Yeah.
which, you know, seems to be expressing itself in this woman's life.
Yeah.
Well, okay. She started by saying she had anxiety and depression stuff last year,
Yeah.
which I feel, and that had to do with moving
From the
before?
door. I think was that
Was it
She
because
cut out.
It was just hard for her to overcome, and now
So that was her
she's
freshman
trying-
year, right?
Yeah, and now she's
So, yeah.
trying.
Okay,
to,
so give me some context of like.
so she was a commuter freshman year, right? So she's
Got
a commuter
it.
freshman year, which I totally understand that being a huge source of feeling not involved in the community of college,
Yeah.
especially. And then her still having those same kind of fears. But now she like has her friend group. She's at her high school friend group. And then she has made a friend at college, has her boyfriend. And now she's moving into an apartment there. So I would think a lot of the anxiety and fears and stuff comes from feeling like
Right.
she's a year behind of like the social aspect.
Sure. And also I think that's just the fact that she led with that. See, I feel like whenever I listen to these, I'm like always decoding all the like subconscious things to try to create more context for myself. So she's like worried. She doesn't feel like super solid. Like she's a
No.
little bit has anxiety
Yeah.
about going to this thing. So that's fair. So it's like, why would you want anything in your life that would make that freakier?
right, and she
And-
wants to have a good year.
And there's something that it sounds like, whether or not this woman has the best intentions or not, the potential roommate, it sounds a little bit on the surface like humans doing what humans do, where they recreate their own trauma over and over. They create an impediment for themselves so that they can, like, if I'm afraid that I'm going to have an anxious, depressed, tough time, I'm going to create a circumstance in which that's definitely going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think what I would say, I don't know if there's a way. I'll give two sets of advice. I think if you cannot live with her, that would be my first advice, just because I don't think that either she's maybe she's not malicious. Maybe she's just a little, you've kind of done the brunt work of like making friends with your high school friends and all this
Right.
kind of stuff that she's kind of like, I'm sure she also, having been a commuter, had the same sort of feelings as you. And so it's kind of like, oh, wow, cool. I can have that sense of community through my roommate. So I don't even know if she's doing
Right.
it in a mean way.
See, that's what my thing is. Like, it's either one of two things. It's either one of these people is off, and either she's sensitive. Because I have like at least one friend in particular I'm thinking of right now who I've only known him for like a couple years, but like folded into my friend group, like of old friends. Like it just felt so natural and it was so right. And it's like, we've all been meant to be pals together.
Yeah.
And there was never a feeling of like, why is this person taking my life? Or
Yeah.
this weird. It was just like, oh, great. This is all meant to be. But if you are feeling that way, like,
trust that.
yeah, I think you have to trust that. I think you got to just, if you do your inventory and go like, well, am I just being anxious? Is it just anxiety and depression? And actually, like, I don't need to be so worried. Like, my boyfriend loves me. Is it going to cheat on me? My friends love me and aren't going to like think they like this person better.
Yeah.
Then maybe it is just your anxiety talking, and that's totally possible. But if you have like any kind of alarm bell about a person, and they're young too, when you're that young, that kind of person is more likely to potentially be in your life, who's also insecure and does that.
I think it's just, I would just trust your gut. Like if you feel off about it and you feel weird, like my home friends will text my friends like from LA. Like I've made my friends, like everyone really gets along, and I don't feel any weirdness at all if like Lily's like, oh my God, yeah, I was texting Sydney the other day. But if I felt weirdness, that would be an issue. Like it would be an issue, not necessarily like, oh, you can feel insecure about certain things, but like also like trying to hang out with your boyfriend one-on-one and all of that stuff. It's causing you stress with the situations. And you also just don't want to be put in a position where your new college life is then potentially affecting like the home life that's totally separate from college. And so I would, maybe even if you talk to your friends too, and that can ease a little bit of it. And then being like, oh no, like, yeah, she's nice, but like maybe she texts all the time. Like it's a little odd. And you can just hear that from them. Then maybe you can just, if you have to live with this girl, just kind of be like, okay, cool. Well, they don't, oh, my nipple fell out of this. Oh, okay. Maybe like now that I know that that they're not also actively, she feels like you feel like she's trying to replace you. And if they're not going along with it and they're kind of like, oh no, we see that and we're not like super into it, maybe that can like ease your anxieties. And then if you live together, know that she'll probably end up making her own friends from classes and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise I would say maybe if there's a way to not live together, but you could also talk, like just be honest with her. I just think that I don't know. I don't think she's doing it from a mean position. Like, I think she just probably feels, I just think she probably feels super anxious and nervous about the same thing. And just feels like that she's like, oh cool. I have built-in friends already.
Like a homeschool kid. Like, you know what I mean? Getting too excited about like, now I can have like a normal social life. Yeah. I think like you were saying, the communication thing too, just honesty. Everyone says it over and over, but like the older you get, the more you learn. Everything you learn in kindergarten is just true about all of your life. Just telling the truth, being honest. If something's like always on your mind, just talking to the person or other people involved is like the best thing to do.
Yeah. Well, good luck in college. It'll be great. And keep us updated and let us know what happens. You'll be good.
You'll be fine.
So I'm 18 years old and I'm a virgin. Yeah, just throwing that out there. Now, it's not that I want to be a virgin. I guess it's just kind of like a thing that I've never been able to get out of the way, I guess. I've not had the opportunity yet to lose it. Now, one of my best friends is also a virgin, and he came up with the idea that we should lose our virginities to each other. And I just don't really know how I feel about this, I guess. I mean, there's, of course, the concern of how will this affect our friendship. I mean, he recently also moved away, so we've not been able to hang out as much as we'd like to. He don't seem to be concerned about this. He says that if anything happens, we'd be able to work through it because we're such good friends. He also says that this is completely my choice, of course, that if I don't want to do it, we won't. And I mean, I kind of like the idea that losing my virginity will be with someone that I know and trust. So I like that part of his idea. But it's also kind of the fact that I'm, I don't know, concerned or afraid of losing my virginity, I guess. It's this unknown thing that I've never done or tried before. And I've heard all these stories from my friends. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just kind of afraid of the whole thing. So yeah, please help.
For video listeners, I just want people to know that while I was drinking my water, there's something in my water that got into my mouth and then I spit it all the way back and then I stared at it for a little bit. So just know that's what happened if you're watching. I don't know what it is either. And I tried to figure it out. Just if you saw that. Yeah.
I actually like your incredible outburst of laughter at her admission to be a virgin aside.
Well,
I do think she was very...
Hi, I'm 19. I'm a virgin. Like, it was just so not what I expected. Was she 19 or 18? Yeah. 18. But it was not what I expected the second line to be.
It just sounded so honest. And she's very like, at least you're thinking about this like in really like honest terms. That she doesn't sound like under pressure. Like there was a moment in the story where I was like, this is sounding a little weird, but then I don't know. It's just making sure you're not doing anything out of like pressure. Like she really does seem to be like reflecting on it a lot.
Yes.
Which is correct. I think.
It is. I think I have been one to say I don't put a lot of like weight in the term virginity, especially being friends with a lot of people who identify as queer, where they're like, well, I wouldn't say like the first time I had sex with a girl was like losing my virginity, because like then I realized like years later that like I wasn't into it's just, and also the idea that it's like penis vagina is virginity.
Course, yes.
And that's like, it's just, and you get to decide whenever you want. Like,
I agree.
You can start over if you're like, you know, I'm a virgin now. Like this, it's just such it doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't include, the term doesn't include enough people for it to mean something.
Someone I follow on Instagram who does like some sex positive kind of like programming for, I think for Super Deluxe and stuff. Their Instagram name is Thongria. I don't know, but it's very thoughtful, interesting stuff. But she said one of her things recently, and I was like, this I think should be the new definition. Like, what if like losing your virginity just meant like the first time you had like an orgasm or even like had sexual like feelings by your like with yourself even. And like if we redefined like our idea of like a new world of like being a sexual being as like that, like, you know, not about like you said, this very like heteronormative, like penis and vagina, that's the thing, you know what I mean? Or even like your hymen breaking or something like that. Like
gymnastics, ride a bike.
Exactly. So I think I agree with you. I don't think like, I think the weird, like old cultural values of like your virginity is really gross and weird.
It's just a lot of like putting a lot of power of something that's your body that you're supposed to like shield from people for all this time and like not dress sexy, to not have tempt men. But then suddenly like when you have sex, it's like somebody, it's somebody else. It's taking something from you as opposed to something that you've been protecting for all this time. Like, be afraid. Yeah.
I think that being said, I think like practically like being realistic about like what's involved, especially when it's new, is like just in the medical sense, like that there are consequences like pregnancy or STDs to like protect about and be careful about. Condoms, always condoms, so many condoms. Just one actually. If you use more, just one at a time. If you use more than one at a time, it's counteractive. Okay, so just one. But and then also I do think, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm a little bit like spoiled on this topic because I lost my virginity to a girlfriend that like we deeply loved each other. And it was just like a nice thing. We were like teenagers and it was like, felt great, you know? That being said, I think, you know, you create oxytocin bonds. There's like an intimacy. There is like, just like any new intense experience that is something that I think it's fine if you want to like put some stock in making that something. Yeah. The idea of, will it mess up your friendship? I think there's no way it doesn't change your friendship. And it's hard to tell from just the story of like how honest everybody involved is being. Like if he's long distance now, like still feeling really attached to you, like that sounds like more than just a friendly thing. And I don't like the idea of somebody like sneaking in a side door of like, hey, we're just friends. Why don't we just lose our virginity to each other? When like that's not really true about how you feel. Then again, it could be like a cute rom-com version where you're like afraid to say how you really feel and you both actually like each other a lot. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you guys both just have to be really honest with how you feel about each other, because I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to lose your virginity to somebody that you love. I don't think there's anything wrong with waiting till marriage to lose your virginity. I don't think there's anything wrong to losing your virginity with some guy or some girl or anybody that you meet one night that you want to have sex with and you have sex with. Like, I don't think there's a wrong way to do it at all. I think the issue is when people feel like shamed into or judged by any choice that they're making. So I think if this is something that you want, and this is something that you're like, you know what, cool, I would kind of want to like get this over with. But if that's not your mentality and you've never thought about it before, and him bringing it up is like completely out of the blue, then I don't really think it's something that you want. So I think like, I mean, I have friends who have done this of being like, we're just gonna have sex for the first time with each other. And like, we're really close. It's always going to be a little bit different just because like you've seen each other naked. And like, totally.
You know what's funny about that?
He's been inside you.
Dude, well, yeah. I have a friend, just a hetero guy friend, just a normal, like, you know, platonic relationship. And we like went to the Korean spa together one time. And I was like, oh, well, now we're naked friends, I guess. And it's just funny. Like, I feel like that, you just made me think of that I was like, there is a version of like, we make such weird barriers for everything.
Yeah.
I think the best kind of sex always is just comfortable sex.
Yeah.
Meaning like you are comfortable with the person. Even if it gets like rough and crazy or whatever, it's because you feel comfortable and safe and trustworthy. And so like whatever choice you're going to do, as long as it's from your own volition, that's when you can do things that are scary. That's when you can do things that are like nerve wracking and anxiety inducing. It's just as long as you feel comfortable and like safe. And that term feels so loaded, like safe, but I don't know an easier way to describe it, you know?
No, it's true. I think no matter what, there's always like a fear of the unknown with anything. And I think that, not to like make you feel more afraid, but I think losing your virginity afterwards, you don't have like a brand new sexual confidence. And even when you have sex with like one person, you're with the one person for a couple of years, the next person you date, you're still nervous the first time you sleep with them. So I think
you're nervous the first time you kiss people.
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah. So I don't think that there's anything when you are feeling inexperienced and kind of wanting, if this is something that you've always wanted, again, to like get it over with, which there's nothing wrong with, then yes, go for it. But also if you had a fantasy of being like a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a guy you really, really, really liked and someone you're really in love with, I don't think you need to give that up. Like you're allowed to have that fantasy. There's nothing wrong or naive about that fantasy. Like that can totally exist. It's just about what you want
and how comfortable you feel.
It's complicated when we enter the realm of like feelings and then trying to put your like frontal cortex in this like weighing pros and cons thing. Like in relationships with everybody, we can't resist the urge to like put everything into like the relationship court. Like, is a thing right or wrong, and arguing if it's right or wrong.
I think if you hadn't thought about this before, there's probably a reason why, because it's probably not how you wanted it to happen. And just because like the opportunity, just because the dick falls in your lap doesn't mean you have to take it.
I like that.
Me too.
That's actually, guys, if any guys listen, they should listen to that too. I think there's a lot of masculine, like heteronormative pressure to be like, you're not a real guy. You're not like, this actually fucks you up. I think this is part of like patriarchal, like, like predatory male stuff too, is like, I literally had a tape in my head that like a good guy makes women feel good by being attractive and up for fucking all the time. Like what a rejection it would be if they ever wanted you and you didn't fuck them back.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, but you're a guy. Don't you want to fuck all the time? And that like I did a lot of things I think in my time that I didn't really want to do.
Yeah.
Like you'd be home with somebody and be like, why am I here? And you'd be like, well, because I'd be a real asshole if this woman wanted to have sex with me and I didn't back.
Yeah.
And it can warp into this weird way of like the only way to interact with females in professional capacity is like to be flirty and be like, hey, you look great today and stuff like that. Because you're taught that's how a good heteronormative man is. That like is fucked up.
Yeah.
And so that's like a very important thing.
It is.
Just because a dick falls in your lap, just because that ass falls in your lap doesn't
don't
mean
take it.
You have to do something with it.
Plenty of other ones where that came from. Okay. On to the next one. Also wear a condom.
I'm 21 years old. I have ADHD and I am in my second year of college and I'm moving out of my parents' house for the first time. Right now it's literally in the middle of the night and I'm so frustrated. So I thought I would just give you a call and see what advice you had for me. I'm going to be moving to a new city for college this year. And I'm so nervous about it because like I feel really uncomfortable with my ADHD. I don't feel like I'm as extroverted as like other people with ADHD. I feel like I'm quite like into myself and like other people don't see me as that. They're always like, no, you're so social. You can totally do this, like blah, blah, blah. But I just babble because I'm so like socially anxious and I'm really anxious about making friends because like I've always kind of been in the position where like I follow other people or I'm dependent on other people to make friends because I just like I can take initiative, but it only works if someone's like as bubbly as me or if I click with someone or something like that. I have a hard time like feeling comfortable around people. And I think a big part of my ADHD is like, I don't know, just being like, I guess, shameful, sort of. Like I bring a lot of shame on myself and I feel like I'm doing things wrong all the time, but actually like I can reason around it and be like, oh, well, it's not wrong and blah, blah, blah. And this might be important. I live in Sweden, but I'm half American. So like the way I speak and stuff and like the way I talk is like kind of culturally different from other Swedish people. And that kind of makes me anxious too.
I think the big issue here is anxiety.
It's weird.
This sounds like me. Literally sounds like me.
Well, okay. One thing I think is really I mean, I'm not a fucking medical professional, but from finding out I had ADHD too about a year ago and learning about it, reading about it. One thing I read that is really fascinating, I think is really applicable here. Adult ADHD, they said a majority of people who are ultimately diagnosed with this, first they're misdiagnosed as like depressives. Like I think there's an average of 2.6 times or something before figuring out it's a different mechanism. And second, they say a lot of adult ADHD, you don't express external hyperactivity, and that what you have is this thing called internal emotional hyperarousal, that like your inner life is so fucking crazy. And it's, and I was thinking about this a lot too, like the same way, like let's say you get a rash.
Yeah.
Physically.
I have a rash right now on my back.
So sorry.
It's okay.
Very unpleasant.
It's okay.
That like there's so many mechanisms that could cause the same symptom.
Yeah.
Like it could be bacterial or viral. It could be an autoimmune thing. It could be an allergy, whatever. It could be a bug bite. And I think the same thing is true when we approach mental health stuff. Obviously, this sounds like she's diagnosed ADHD. So they've decided they think that's the mechanism, in which case I think, you know, if that's true, a little bit of appropriate medication can help, as well as like good habits like exercising and nutritional stuff. That stuff makes such a huge difference. Just drinking a lot of water and making sure your body gets to run around pretty regularly and tired out, that will change your life. And then making lists and getting like strategies and practice in place. Like I do daily morning lists now that are to-do lists, and they'll literally start with like do the dishes or like
shower.
Take a shower.
It's always mine.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's
You're
really
like,
helpful.
Cross one thing off.
Yeah, it's fun to add make a list at the end of the list.
Yep. Always.
But so first of all, just understanding that just because your dopamine receptors like being weird doesn't manifest the way you think ADHD is supposed to. Actually, there's a lot of versions of how that expresses itself, and some of them aren't this external thing. And that can be confusing because anxiety symptoms can be very similar to ADHD ones, can be very similar to depressive ones. I thought I was bipolar for a while.
That's what I was just about to say. For one of the first psychiatrists I ever went, I got diagnosed with ADHD from a teacher when I was in school, like as in middle school or something, but didn't get medicated and nothing else happened from that. And then the first time I went to a psychiatrist the first time I went to a psychiatrist in LA, they misdiagnosed me as being bipolar because it was like they were like saying that I was having manic episodes because like the way you talk, you're super expressive, like it's so blah 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 blah, blah about all this stuff, but then like you will get super depressed and like you've got you're very anxious about all of these things. They're like you're flipping back and forth, but it was just like my ADHD brain and like my depressive anxiety brain being like these things, so I can get really I can be super depressed and get really worked up, as opposed to being like super lethargic and not wanting to get out of bed. It's like a very active, more of like a tornado destructive kind of depression thing.
Well, and that's the thing they said about this internal hyperarousal thing, is that sometimes your outside will not even look very crazy, quote unquote, whatever, because that's how it manifested for me a lot. Was I would just be so overwhelmed by options and thoughts and things and going on that I wouldn't do anything. Yeah. And so you look very still, and even it can manifest as like depression and stuff like that. You just can't do anything because you're just so
your brain's
active.
in hyperdrive. Yeah.
That's the thing they say. I think on some autism spectrum stuff is like that too. They think they actually like feel so much, and people with ADHD, I read this about, like you feel so much of what's going on that you that you just freeze up. You can't like
put it out.
Say, you know,
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, I think, what was the question about? Like just dealing with how uncomfortable that is?
Yeah. And I think one of the things everybody has a different, when Hannah Hart was on the podcast, she also has ADHD, and we were talking about how it manifests itself in different people. Like for her, hers was like her ADHD brain would tell her that she was lazy. And that was like the self-loathing part. And mine would tell me that I was stupid. And so you have to figure out what it is that ADHD is making, whatever that side of your brain is making, whatever that's telling you. Is it telling you that you're stupid? Okay. Is it telling you that?
This is fucking huge. That's what it was. Cause you said the shame thing. I really want to touch that. There's a really good book I was reading recently. I wish I could remember the title of it, but it's about ADHD in marriage. But it was like about ADHD in romantic relationships. And it was so fucking useful to read. I did a book on tape. There's these library apps. You can just get your local library. It's not, it's your local, it's free. And there's like audio, it's amazing. It's Overdrive or Libby. Anyway, local libraries, they're amazing. Use them. But this book, one of the most profound things through that, and there's a woman named, I think it's How to ADHD or something like that. She's got a YouTube channel and she talks about it a lot. If you start looking at it, you realize a lot of the things that are ADHD problems we consider moral failings.
Completely.
So you have a partner who's like, why don't you ever fucking ask me about my day? Why don't you care about me? And you're like, no, I do. I'm so sorry. It never occurs to me. I'm so overwhelmed by, and so things like that, or lazy. That's a good one too. I feel that all the time. Why are you so fucking lazy? Why don't you figure shit out? I would always have this tape in my head about why are you such a piece of shit, you know? And like realizing like, why can't you you have all the thoughts, you have the ability, just fucking do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
You're taught in our culture that that's just you being lazy. That's you like not doing the work and not doing your puritanical job of like grindstone every day.
Yeah.
But when you realize it's not a moral failing, so many of these things are because literally you have a dopamine receptor that works different than other people, that it's really, I think, important to be able to remove shame from a physical mechanism.
Yeah.
If you had like half of a foot that required you to have prosthetic things so that you could run in a normal gait, you wouldn't think you had fucked up like morally.
No, totally.
You wouldn't think like, oh, just think harder and then
grow a foot.
Your tendon's gonna work.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I very much agree with that. I think you need to figure out what the where that's stemming from for you, and then vocalize it, whether it's talking to your friends or your parents. Like my friends know that that's the thing for me. It's like my issue of like feeling like I'm an idiot. And my friends, if I'm ever even just like not talking about it or getting down about it, my friends will just like throw in random, be like, gosh, that thing you did the other day, like that's so innovative. And I would have never thought about it like that. And things that in my head, like I had such a hard time giving, I used to like consider myself, I was like, oh, I was just like scrappy. Like I wasn't smart, but I would like find a way to like MacGyver my way to do all these things. And then like, as I got to be an adult and I would have people like comment on that in a positive way, being like, wow, that's so innovative. Something I never would have thought of. But I will also say, again, I think it sounds like you've gone to a psychiatrist and it's not self-diagnosed, or you've gone to a therapist or something. I would feel bad not suggesting medication, because for me, was like incredibly helpful in me being able to feel competent. And that's, I think, like the hardest thing is you just feel like everybody else has been running for, like, everyone got a head start and you're kind of like catching up. And I don't think there's any embarrassment with it, with the people that you meet and stuff. I honestly wouldn't even tell. Most people like that know me well know, but other people, I mean, the internet, but I mean, like if I'm on set or something and I need to like go grab an Adderall because I'm like, oh cool, I have to take one. This is the time of day.
I have reminders on my phone.
Yeah. So I would have one of like the PA guys who knew, and I would ask him because I didn't want to tell everybody, because also once you go to college, everybody's like, cool, can I buy some? Like, can I have this? I'm like, I can't function, you fuckers. Like, no. So I think you don't have to tell people. It's also something like even Aislinn, one of my best friends, Aislinn, like she didn't know until later on. And then she was like, oh, this makes sense. But she wasn't not friends with me before that. It wasn't like it was a precursor that she needed to know to be friends with me, of being like, oh, fair warning, she's got ADHD. It like later on, she was like, oh no, it like made sense when you told me, but it doesn't affect how I see you. But she's like, it can help me help you doing things.
I think it's helpful to realize like, there's a reason we're all different. Like there's all different kinds of people that like you have a place, even if you're like this idea that we're trying to create some like homogenous human experience and like that's good is so silly. Like what you said about like no one would have thought to figure it out that way, to MacGyver it that way. Like I think it's important if you have a brain that's shaped different or that works different, it's important to not like wish that you had a different one and to go like, well, my brain does allow me to, you're very good in crisis. You're very good in situations where there's like a million different inputs at one time and you need to navigate all of them and make it happen. And just because you're like, I had this thing before I learned any of this about myself, I just knew, I called it my pop fly rule, this like pop fly paradox, where like if they would stick me in the outfield because I wasn't a very good athlete as a kid, and that's where you stick kids who aren't very good athletes, but I would be able to see this ball coming that was the the easiest thing in the world to catch. You'd watch it coming towards you, high flying, pop fly, whatever. And I would miss it every time because I have too much time to think about it and go like, oh, I'm going to, and that's my ADD brain. If they put me in the midfield or like a shortstop or something like that, infield, I would just like a ball, like line drive comes to your head and you just go, and throw it. And realizing later that like the thing that you feel shame about, like not being standard or whatever, or fitting into the social mores and norms of your world, like you just got to let yourself throw it out and realize like, you have strengths and weaknesses just like everybody. And there really is like a piece in the puzzle of this blanket of people that works for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Time for a break, guys.
Cool.
Listen to some ads and we will be back. Sup, guys.
Hi, Megan.
Hello. Good God, you scared me. Oh, guys. Wow. Look, it's us. We're here. And as you can tell by our informalness, this is not an ad that's being paid for by anybody.
Nope. Just by your time.
Just by your time, your ear holes. So don't skip it because we'll know. We actually won't know if you skip the ad, but I like the imminent threat of feeling like we'll know.
Who knows what we'll say?
It's just true. You guys, you might not. There might be a giveaway. There's not a giveaway, but there might be something exciting that you'll miss. A new inside joke, perhaps. How pretty is our website?
It's so cute.
It's so cute. Oh my
Hello,
God, Jarrett's here.
Jarrett.
We're recording an ad.
You can come in.
It's okay. It's an informal ad. It's an ad for ourselves.
Yeah, we're just talking.
We're self-promoting.
Yeah. Good. How are you?
Yeah, guys, we have our website, don'tblameme.show. It got a facelift. It got some Botox, maybe some filler.
She's looking real good.
She's good. She got a facial and a spray tan. She's living her best like pre-Coachella life.
Yeah.
So check her out. There you can find all the episodes. You can find some of our favorite episodes that are featured. You can see some real cute pictures of Melissa and I.
Yeah.
You can see Melissa's bio, which is clearly very professional, and mine, which was clearly written by me at 2 a.m. where I say nothing about myself and I just say that I like Zodiac memes.
Yeah. And go buy your book.
Yeah, that's all I do. That's all I do is self-promo and look at Zodiac memes. So yeah, and guys, we now have an Instagram because we're thoughty. Just follow it. There's all these pics of Melissa and I just like butts on.
Yeah. Left cheek, right cheek.
Left cheek, right cheek. No, it's not butts.
No, not at all.
It's behind the scenes of the podcast. We also have updates for when we have episodes out and videos out. So if you are ever curious and wondering like, hey, when's the video of this episode out? Guess what? You can find it on the Instagram and some BTS content. Hopefully by now there will be a photo of me punching Mel.
Yeah, it should be.
It should be there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you guys don't understand that inside joke, you clearly are not a good fan.
Right.
Or you clearly skipped the ad, which also means you're a bad fan.
Right.
A ban. You're a ban. A bad fan. And guys, also iTunes. Give us some love on iTunes.
We love it. We love reading the comments.
We do. We love, we can suck our own dicks, but it's also good when you guys suck our dicks. Who doesn't love that? So guys, yeah, that's, it's time to go back to the episode. Enjoy hearing more of me and Melissa talking about other things.
Bye.
Probably more dick sucking.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. Bye. Guys, we are back from the break. Shall we hop into questions?
Let's go for
Great.
it.
Hey Megan, I'm trans and my last gender reassignment surgeries are coming up, so I've been thinking about getting back into dating again, and I'm very insecure about my height. Women always seem to say that they want somebody who is like 5'10" or 6 feet tall, and I'm only 5'8". So I was wondering if that is just something that's, I don't know, what people say and isn't really that important to them anyways, or if it's really that important that guys are tall and that I'm fucked. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. You're not fucked, but
No.
you'll get fucked. Don't worry.
You will get fucked for sure.
Yeah. It's so person to person what you're attracted to, but also like I used to say I was bringing it back to me as I always do. But I used to be like, I'm like, my criteria is the guy that needs to be over 6'3" and like work in finance. Finally found a guy who fit that. He was the fucking worst.
Yeah, you sound like a great guy. Sounds like a really fun guy just on the surface.
Yeah, but like, and he was terrible. So I think sometimes like, some people can have those unrealistic like criteria, and then they're going to meet somebody with that and it's not going to matter. And also everybody's different heights. Like I'm 5, if any casting directors are listening, I am 5'7". If you mean me in real life, I'm closer between 5'8", 5'9".
Oh, you cheat it down.
Oh, always.
That's so funny. I'm usually like 5'10".
That's
what guys do.
But then I'll be like, 6, 5'11" in heels. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I went into a chemistry read the other day and I looked up the actor who had already been cast, his height. And I was like, he's going to be lying. And then I was like, and I've definitely lied in my first audition. And so I walked in, I was like, we are the same height.
Man, that shit's so funny. This idea, it's a funny, it gives me a million thoughts. Really quick as a sidebar, that thing about like making about me, I read like a tweet recently that was, I do that same thing whenever somebody tells me something, especially if it's like an advice thing or they're going through something. My instinct is always to go like, this is an experience I've had that's like that. And this is what happened to me.
Yeah.
In my brain, I'm like, I want to reach into my bag of experiences, empathize with you, and give you some context so you don't feel alone. And so just to help or whatever. Yeah. And I've realized I have to mitigate that because some people, it's like, that's not good listening. Like you're making it about you. But you like got to figure out, because
I find the same way of being like, I always want to qualify what I'm going to say. And I want to give it some backbone of being like, oh, well, this is something like obviously not the same, but this is kind of like my experience with something in a lane similar. So I would just say it just fully depends on the person. Like complete, like my friend. So my friends, I'm taller than most of my friends, and my friends, God, excuse me guys. So I can't drink bubbly beverages. Oh my God, there's another. Whew, so many. Ugh. I don't like the feeling of burping.
Carve them out.
But so my best friend is, she's like 5'2" maybe 5'3". And anytime she'd like be talking about the guy that she was seeing, and she's like, yeah, he's like super cute. Like he's Sydney tall, but if I pictured you two next to each other, he might be taller or shorter than you. I don't know. But like everything's so relative or like even swiping.
I mean, I'm 5, almost 1. So like it doesn't matter to me at all.
Oh my God, there's a million things about this. Cause this is it is a weird like last bastion of acceptable like body shaming or something like that. That everyone agrees. Everyone can be like, I only date guys who are over 5'10". If you were like, I only date women under 120 pounds, you'd be like, what the fuck's wrong with you? So first of all, that is kind of weird. Whatever. I don't think it's unjustified in the sense like I always think of like universal justice of like yin yang stuff that I'm like, well, patriarchy is really like beating the shit out of women in most ways. So I don't think it's like a big deal to go like, it should be equal. Like, you know what I mean?
I think it also depends because like my boyfriend is more uncomfortable when I'm taller than him than if I'm wearing heels. He's taller than me when I'm not wearing heels. He's more uncomfortable when I'm taller than him than I am about it.
Well, so this totally depends. I think it does get into that thing of like, we were talking about earlier about feelings can't really be right or wrong. They just are. So especially when you get into like bedroom stuff and like sexy feeling stuff, it's like, you can't, it's not like you can politically correctify your weird sex drive feelings. Like you're going to like what you like. People are going to like what they like. I'd say broadly speaking, like whether or not someone wants to fuck you has nothing really like, not as much to do with your physicality as you think it does. It has much more to do with how funny are you, how like cool are you to be around, how like much do you just connect in a way that you can't explain. Like, you know what I mean? That also being said, I think we put a little too much weird shame on like, especially when you're young, especially when you're like, you're only going to live like one life. Even if you get reincarnated, you're only going to live one life as this consciousness. Yeah. The idea that you'd want to like try on different types of people on totally superficial reasons, I don't think should be like shamed so much. Yeah. But like, that means you should also take it in stride the other way. Like it shouldn't have as much meaning to you if somebody's like, I only date people who are taller than you. You're like, all right, well, that's on you. You know what I mean?
Well, and also if there's in no way, if somebody's not interested in you, it's never going to be, the height's not going to be like what stops them.
Completely.
Like if they're into you, they're going to be into you. And if they're not, it has nothing to do with your height. It's maybe they just don't see you romantically like that. And you might manifest that in like, oh, they only date tall guys, but it might just be like, you're not their type in a like intellectual sense, you just don't have that kind of like clickingness and that spark that that person's looking for.
Yeah.
And I would also say, I can't even tell you the amount of people and guys that I know that are like between 5'8" and 5'9" and are dating girls that are shorter than them and taller than them. Like so many of my guy friends are dating girls who are, I think almost majority of my guy friends are dating girls that are taller than them, and nobody cares. And I think if anybody cares, it's just, I totally understand that insecurity. I used to feel really insecure about being a tall girl because as opposed to thinking, I never thought of like, oh, guys should all be really tall because I grew up with girls who were all super petite and really short. So I was the odd one out. It wasn't like it was a bunch of tall guys and then one short guy. It was a bunch of short girls and then me. So I always wished that I was shorter and I always really cared about it so much more. So then me wanting to date a taller guy was more about my insecurity with my height compared to other women. And it was, I think that's usually what the most comparison and the feeling inadequate is within your own gender, as opposed to like how I'm being perceived to men. It was like how I feel. I've always felt so much taller and bigger than all of my other female friends. You know? And it's so much more about confidence and like, that's hot. Like that's sexy. Like there are so many guys that I went to school with who, if I showed someone a picture, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, like they're traditionally attractive. I'm like, but no, if you knew them, like they're not hard, but like they're not hot, they're not tall, but like they pull bitches. Like they have like the panty dropper personality. And that's, I think, so much more important is the confidence. It's that's what people find. That's the inexplicable thing that people find super attractive and something that doesn't fade and makes people maintain interest in you and really like be invested in you, as opposed to like a guy or a girl that's like a certain height or a certain hair color or whatever. That might be like your automatic thing that you usually are like, oh cool, yes, swipe right. But that doesn't go anything past that. Like it doesn't do anything.
Self-possession, especially, you know what it, you know that thing, there's this thing, they put it in movies all the time and TV all the time, and sometimes it happens in your real life where someone goes, who are you? You know? And they like look at you in a way like they're like, you did something unexpected, and they're like, wait a minute, and it makes them double take. If you can do that in real life, if you can be someone, I'm a short man, and that's like not supposed to be somebody who's confident and owns their space and doesn't even think about their height. And then like that on top of a million other things, you just like, wait, you're like not supposed to be as comfortable as you are. There's so much, it's powerful. There's something about that person that becomes this question mark, and always having mystery about yourself. Like, I think if it's a person you love too, they should always have some secrets that you never know. Like it's like nice. It keeps them their own thing forever. It's great. But like, so if you have secrets, or you have like, which can even be like secret knowledge, like why are you so confident? I also think being like comfortable and confident in your own space, like is a boon to everybody around you. You become an example of like,
it's infectious when you see somebody who's like not worried about those things and is really confident. That no matter, you're not judging them as much as like you're not judging them the way you judge yourself, and you're just envious of that confidence. And that confidence, that person already had to overcome the same self-loathing feelings that you have. Everybody has those. And when you can shut that off and just give out that confident air of confidence, like that's what detracts people.
And I think there's a version of that confidence that invites other people in and says, oh no, you can have this too.
Exactly. It's not like I'm the best, you're the worst. It's like, no, we're all fucking awesome. Like we're all super hot, go us. The sooner you can get over like all that energy expenditure about like just how bad and wrong you are in the universe, and go like, no, I'm just in the universe. It's not bad or good. And if anyone like makes a comment being like, you're just not tall enough for me, just be like, okay, cool. Well, you're too tall for me. Just be like, well, you're too tall. Also, like, you're too short. You're too tall then.
Thank you for telling me who you are. What a miserable, boring fucking person who's like, oh.
Thank you for not having me waste all of my time to know that you care so much about height.
I'll tell you what, if somebody's like, if their deal breaker is like a certain amount of inches, you're bad at sex. Okay. I'm just going to say that like flat out. You're not present. You're not here. You're not experiencing.
Also, no one can see sex. Know how tall you are when you're fucking horizontal.
Absolutely.
True. Come on, you're fine. You'll be good. You'll be good. Next one.
So I started seeing this guy at the beginning of the summer. I'm 20, he's 21. And when we first started talking, I kind of told him that I'm very go with the flow. I can be in a relationship. I can just hook up. Whatever falls in my lap, whatever feels right, that's what's good to me. And so in the beginning, we just kind of kept it hooking up, getting to know each other, very, very simple. And he expressed to me about a month and a half in that wasn't all that he was looking for with me. He did see a relationship in our future. He liked a lot of things about me and made it very clear that just hooking up wasn't what he was interested in. And I was really flattered by that. When he told me, I kind of switched my mindset up about him and ended up really liking him. He's really different than the guys I normally date. I think that's why I like him so much. However, this entire summer, he's been dealing with a lot of things. For instance, his mom has terminally ill cancer. He also had an injury at work that was preventing him from working, making him not financially stable, which I think made him a little bit insecure with us. And so, yeah, a couple days ago, I received a message from him about an hour before we were supposed to hang out. And he was basically telling me that all of this stuff in his life is making him not emotionally, physically available for a relationship right now. And I understood it, but I was just very confused because a couple weeks ago when he was telling me he wanted a relationship, all of those things that he had been dealing with were already a factor in his life. He had already opened up to me about them. Didn't want to talk about them much, but I was definitely aware that he had a lot of things going on. But he made it very clear to me that he did want a relationship. And so a couple weeks later, I'm just very, very confused why he's kind of starting to push me away. He also doesn't really have a lot of close friends. So I worry that if he doesn't have me, he doesn't have an avenue to kind of express his feelings and open up about certain things. And that makes me worry for him. So right now I'm just kind of at a point where I'm very confused where to go from here, because if he does want space, I totally want to respect that. But I also feel like he's pushing me away at a time where he really needs someone, and I want to be there for him, but I just don't know how, because he is pushing me away. But I don't really know how to handle this situation. So any advice would help. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dramatic.
It's dramatic.
It is dramatic.
But
it's
also legitimately
drama
dramatic.
No, that's like a drama movie.
Involved.
Not like hair flip drama.
Sometimes it's appropriate. Sometimes drama is the
like
right
a Meryl
word.
Streep movie.
Yeah.
Like a sad one.
This is a heavy one.
Yeah.
It's young too. She was saying they already were hooking up.
Yeah.
And okay. Well, yeah. Well, you want to go first?
Yeah. I think my initial reaction here is, again, you're great. I love you. Don't hate me. It's so not about you. And it's just not about you at all. And I think right now you're trying to make sense. You're trying to make logical sense of something, and trying to make logical sense of the things that you're hearing from somebody who's like dealing with a lot of grief and dealing with something that they don't even really understand. They're learning how to deal with it as it's happening.
Right.
So him saying that he wanted to have a relationship with you and all that stuff, at that moment, he might have felt really okay to do that. And he might have felt competent and ready. And maybe there was a shift in your relationship and you guys were talking more and he was getting more invested in you and he was wanting to spend time with you. And maybe he was spending less time with his mom, or thinking about all this stuff about how he has a limited time with her, and about how suddenly there was somebody who is going to be in his life who is going to take up time from somebody that he's not going to get that time back with.
Mm-hmm. That's very possible.
I think as much as you're saying he doesn't have a lot of friends and he doesn't really talk to a lot of people about it and he doesn't want to talk with you about it, people grieve differently. And one of the hardest things that I've had friends who've lost family members from a long time coming. And they have said that the hardest part was when they were still there and you're grieving somebody as they're still alive.
Right.
And that becomes something that you can't really there's no right way to grieve. Talking about it, not talking about it, like opening up to friends, not doing any of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really his journey and what he needs. And the only thing that he needs from you is to hear what he's asking for and to just listen without prying and without prodding. And then the last thing he needs right now is for you to be like, but I thought you said you wanted to be in a relationship and I thought this is what you wanted. And like, this is not, and who knows what's going to happen in time, but I think it's really mature of him to tell you, be like, you know what? Like now I'm really not ready for this and all of that. And then just listen. And then you guys will figure it out from there, but he doesn't sound like a bad guy at all. He sounds like a guy who's going through a lot and has been super communicative with you and keeping you in the loop. So there's not something that you don't know. He's told you his feelings when he had them. His feelings changed for reasons that have nothing to pertain to you. And he told you again. So he's already being so much more communicative than so many people are.
Yeah.
That I think what you do is you're like, I hear you. I really care about you. Like, let me know if you need anything. Like, I'm always here to listen, but there's not, you can't help somebody unless they seek help from you. Like just your presence being there, as much as you think if you were in that situation, it would really help to have somebody and a friend. That's not the case for everyone.
I think you're pretty spot on. I don't know. I think it's like, I mean, the wherewithal to be 21 as a male and like have someone you're hooking up with and to go like, I just don't think I can do this for real right now is like, what a gift. What a nice person to do that. In terms of like, I was going to say like this thing about like, well, a week ago he said this and now he's saying this and blah, blah, is like, that's that thing where you're entering into the court of feelings again, like the court of like, well, what is right and what's not? Well, he said this and not this. I'm going to decode it. Even that alone gives you an answer. He's conflicted. He's confused. He doesn't really know what's going on. And the ability for him to actually say out of all of that, like, I just don't think I can do this right now is like the rightest thing. Mm-hmm. I would almost feel like weirder if like he was like, yes, this is definitely it. Cause then you're his answer. Then like you're like the confusion. Cause sometimes I think I did this when I was younger. I would embrace a drama that made sense to me or was like an established kind of drama or like a romantic interest would become, that was my focus. If I figured that out or put my energy there, I would never have to deal with my own bullshit or my own family bullshit or whatever. Like, some people will do that, like they'll, you know, and make it way worse. I think for what you do, I do think, especially, you know, this is a weird thing. This is not to get this extreme, but like, you know, there were suicide things happening. And whenever a suicide happens of a public figure, a lot of people do this thing where they start going like, please just reach out. Please reach out if things are tough for you and blah, 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 blah. And I think that's funny because it's kind of like in contrast to in regular life, we always say like, cut toxic people out of your life. I don't have time. I don't have to answer a phone from a problematic person, you know? So it's like sort of mixed signals there. The way I think to like correctly interact with somebody, especially if they said something to you like this, because it is possible some people don't have the tools to say like, I really do need help. Yeah. I think there's nothing wrong with sending texts, you know, here and there and being like, hey, just how's everything going with your fam? And, let me know if you want to hang out. Do that. Feel free to do that. But don't put any sort of like, I think, stock or need or pressure for like a romantic or an answer or like, what are we? What are we doing?
Or expectations for like spending time with me and like the attention that, and also this sounds like a good guy who knows like, I want to put in the time and energy in a relationship that it deserves. And you are clearly the girl who deserves that. And he sees that and is like, I can't be that guy for you right now. And I'm not going to be the half-assed version of that guy. And so he's not committing to something that he knows that he's ultimately not going to be happy with how he's able to treat you. And I think exactly like you said, there's a way to show your support without asking for anything in return. And I think
it just has to be honest. It has to be genuinely you just saying, hey, I'm here if you want a friend, but not as like a sneaky way to actually have a relationship or to be like, why didn't he text me back? I asked if he was okay. Maybe he's like, just those, you know what I mean? So, like you sound like a supportive, thoughtful person. That's probably very appealing in a time when you're feeling like really unsettled. And the fact that he would have the ability to go like, but it doesn't seem appropriate or whatever it is like a real gift. That's a really like thoughtful person.
Okay. Is it producer's corner time?
It is.
Woo-hoo. What is this? This is when you have like a really good one, right? Is that what this one is?
Depends.
It
Oh, it depends.
Yeah.
It can
Got
be
it.
her favorite. It can be somebody who has advice pertaining to one of the other calls we gave advice on.
Right.
They've got some better or personal experience usually. And then sometimes it's a callback update for somebody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Last time I think it was an update.
It was an update.
Yeah.
So this is someone calling with some similar experiences from the episode with Bree Essrick.
That was a
lovely.
juicy one.
It was, but this is the caller that her boyfriend was extroverted and she was introverted and didn't know how to go about going into
Wasn't this one
social
who was
situation.
texting his friends? Yeah.
You are
What
correct.
happened?
His friends, she like went through his phone, which she was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, dude, it's fine. You can go through his phone.
Do you think that?
I think if you want to go through someone's phone, there's a reason why you want to go through their phone and you're going to find it.
Well, that's so funny because I say the same thing. I was like, if you're looking for something, you're going to find it.
You're going to find what you're looking for.
But my point is like, I think you'll find it no matter, meaning like it can be a harmless exchange with somebody that you don't trust or whatever. It can be like, haha, I'm friends with this person who's a girl. And you'll be like, oh, like, I just don't think there's any way that results in you not being in pain. Looking through
but I
somebody's
think
phone.
if you're looking through someone's phone, you're already in pain. That's what I mean. Like you don't don't innocently go through someone's phone.
I'm just saying I disagree. I'm on the other side of the fence of like, so don't do it. Like, I don't think you're going to get, like, I think people need that private space to talk how they talk. No, you're never going to look at it, blah, 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 blah. And that like, that I think that exists. That's how I feel. You know, NSA. I don't want to tap my phone.
Yeah, you might just be venting for one
but that
thing
completely.
and then
I think if you're
it's not the same. It's not how you feel all the time.
Why would you be looking? That's my thing. I think if you're looking at something that you've been stewing on for more than just a minute, it's not like, oh, my girlfriend's like, oh, I can't. She's being kind of like,
no, because I think
overbearing.
it would be easier to be like, oh, like let's say the simplest one, right, is like he's cheating or there's somebody else he likes or something like that. And that's why he's being so cold to me. He met somebody else and that's what it is and blah, blah, blah. Because it's easier to say that that's the reason than go like, well, what am I doing? Like why I'm unhappy in this relationship. We're unhappy. I'm not a fun, cool person to be around because I'm not dealing with my own thing. You know what I mean? Like it gives you a reason to externalize your problems instead of just like dealing with whatever's
I would also
in front
say,
of you.
I don't know any girl who's been like my boyfriend's being, if the only time I've had friends and only time I've ever looked through a boyfriend's phone wasn't like, oh, what's wrong? It was like, no, there have been hints. Like I can tell that you are lying about something. It's usually that. It's less about like, oh, you've been distant.
Yeah.
It's like you catch somebody in one lie and then you go through their phone.
I have been in this situation and I've had close male friends in the situation where they're being accused of cheating like incessantly when they're doing nothing of the sort.
Yeah.
And it gives you to the place and like there'll be things they'll find like this must be this because you're friendly with this girl, whatever. And you just end up being like, I might as well just start cheating because I'm getting punished for it anyway. And so that feeling of like, you'll find what you're looking for is like, there will always be something to like fuel the fires of whatever insecurity you are having.
But that usually comes from a past relationship. Behind every crazy girl is the guy who made her that way.
Do you think that?
Or
just a dad that made you that way?
No, it's anyone, any person in your life. That's like the
completely.
Pinterest cliche phrase. But no, I think post different relationships and stuff, like I started relationships, like I've gotten like some relationships I've been in where I like wasn't jealous at all. And then I grow to be jealous and I grow to be crazy. And then I'll start a new relationship and I'm not like that at all. And then there's all these things that I'm like, oh, this reminds me of this boyfriend who did this to me. And so now this is how like my thinking
what was
like
the thing?
that.
What behind every crazy girl is
a guy who made her that way. That's like the Pinterest quote.
I love those like toxic heteronormative. The guy version of that, the other side of that, I think is the one that's like, no matter how hot a girl is, there's some guy out there tired of her bullshit.
Oh God.
And I think like those are just fun like things to just be like
iPhone wallpapers.
Horrible. I mean horrible. Like toxic disclaimer, but
very, very, very
funny.
terrible.
Anyway, so that's funny. I mean, you know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying is like you might think you have a reason.
We're both on the other side. I'm the girl who's found shit, and then you were the guy who's like, well, you didn't find anything.
Okay, yes. And I will say on me, the thing that's bad would be like if you are in that situation where you're getting accused of stuff all the time that's not true, or like they think things like you're friendly with somebody and they're like, why are you flirting? I end up creating like little dishonesties where I'm like, okay, well, I'll just put it through the filter of like what it means to you. That can end up being like, we're just friends, even though we like slept together or something like that at some point, because like it didn't mean anything to me. I don't know. So I'm just going to tell you we're just friends because to you, it'll think like we're an old flame.
Exactly.
And that's like not good either. Yeah. So as long as like honesty always, and then let people sort out for themselves what it means and try to communicate. But I also think let people have secrets. Don't go dig through their phone. They need private space. That's me.
You'll find things you don't want to find.
You will find things you don't want to find.
You very much will. Okay. Speaking of that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, this is
Let's
someone
listen.
that's had like similar experience, but from a different perspective.
Hi, Megan. I'm responding to the Don't Blame Me episode 36 about the girl who had an extroverted boyfriend and she was an introvert. So I am like in the opposite position. So I'm the extrovert in my relationship and my boyfriend is an introvert. He and I have been dating for over 3 years now. And yeah, we like early on, because I knew that he was an introvert, we kind of worked out what the boundaries were. And so basically, I really liked going to parties and going to gigs with my friends, but I also knew that he would be uncomfortable. So like early on, I would invite him to gigs that my friends were playing in their bands. And he was always like, oh, I don't really know. And I said to him, look, like, let's go for a couple songs. I at least want to like see them play 1 or 2 songs and then we can go straight after that. Or if you really need to go, like we can have a code word and you can say that and we'll go. And so we'd be hanging out and stuff. And yeah, he would say the code word and I'd be like, cool, let's go. And often I'd only get to listen to maybe 1 or 2 songs if I was lucky. But that was totally fine, you know, because I'd invited him out and I needed to respect his boundaries. And so if I was going to do that, I also needed to be prepared to have to leave earlier than I might want to. But also in saying that, you know, if there were gigs that I really wanted to stay for the whole thing, then I would just, you know, invite another friend of mine who was extroverted and would enjoy being at that. And he was totally fine with me going. Like there was never that issue of him being like, oh, like you're always going out without me, because, you know, he didn't necessarily enjoy that, but he knew I did and didn't want to stop me. So I think just having that open dialogue and like, I find something as well that helps is planning stuff at home. So I find that he likes it when we invite a small group of friends, like 4 or 5 friends over for like a board game night or something. And I get my social interaction from that. But he doesn't get too overwhelmed because he's at home and he's in control and he can kind of know what's going to happen and know who's going to be there. And I think that really helps as well when he's in a place that he's comfortable and he's kind of helped organize it. So maybe give that a go. But yeah, I think definitely just having that open dialogue and just making sure you're both comfortable and that, you know, when you want to do something that the other's not comfortable with, that you may need to compromise and being okay with that. So yeah, I hope everything works out. Bye.
Oh, it's lovely.
I mean, that's healthy as fuck. I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
like,
very healthy.
Great.
I think that's a good. We talked about it in the episode about how there's rarely a time where two people will date who are the exact same level of social.
Right.
Where it's like everybody
100%.
kind of falls onto like I enjoy these kinds of social situations more than this and this and this. And as long as you guys are both respectful of each other's boundaries.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I'm the antisocial one, or I've also learned that antisocial is like a serial killer thing that you're not supposed to say that.
Really?
It used to be antisocial, like the definition. It's like,
yeah, like
it's like
got it.
So you know what I mean?
Like I know what you mean.
Yeah,
like you are like,
you just like, you don't
not-
have like empathy. Like you don't have like a sense
you're not
of
part of like any kind of societal connection.
Yeah.
You're, like,
And
all
it's
of
something
it.
that they will diagnose like serial killers, like
I was
antisocial
watching,
disorder.
I was watching some BBC show about these people who live in Alaska. Like it's like individual people who like live like up at the Arctic Circle. And some of those people you're like, they're antisocial. Like they really want to be alone in a cabin living off the land with no one for hundreds of miles. I see. Is that yes? But you're not like that. You're just like
There's like antisocial and then antisocial personality disorder.
Oh, okay, great, cool,
Yeah.
awesome. So I can still say I'm
okay.
antisocial
Yeah.
without being like I kill people.
also colloquial. You know, you get it. I don't know.
Yeah. Slang, Twitter.
Some things is like if you make sounds and syllables with your breath and your mouth, and I know what they mean, then
Yeah,
great.
that's all fine. We're all on the
We've
same page.
communicated. Amazing language.
But yeah, so I think I think everybody's got the relationship trade-offs and with all that
I think
stuff.
like the sooner
It's
you
good.
like the best relationships I witness and that I've been a part of are when you really are individual people
Yeah.
who like to spend time together and a lot. Like you know, that not being like when I was younger, I think like I really wanted my relationships to match up, like having hobbies that were similar,
Oh,
or
yeah.
just all kinds of stuff. You know, we spent all this time, blah blah, and then
it's too much time to spend
Too
together.
much time. Too much time.
You gotta keep those secrets.
I think you got to keep those secrets. I really do believe that. I also think like I do think like if you are very busy people who like it's hard to see each other, sometimes then it's nice to have like little hobbies in common because like it's a thing to do together.
Yeah,
Like,
but you can start those things to do like.
yeah, you can.
You don't have. It doesn't be like individual interests that you both happen to share and then want to totally do together.
Yeah, the thing about like I think it's so healthy to be like someone likes to go to concerts and you don't, and they go to concerts with their friends and you stay home. Fine.
Yeah.
It's
so
great.
I hope that girl who had originally called in, I hope that situation's doing better with your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, as you can hear from, you've heard on one episode of us saying it, you've heard the callback and us saying it again, that you shouldn't ever be with somebody who's trying to pressure you to do something you're uncomfortable with. Okay, guys, that's our episode.
Great.
Oh my gosh. Well, Jarrett, where can people find you and where can people listen to your podcast?
Oh yeah, thank you. You can find me at Jarrett_Sleeper on Instagram is like really the only social media left that I like care about at all. I think like Instagram is fun. The rest of it's like whatever.
It's good.
And then but I do this podcast called My Good Bad Brain, which was in the wake of realizing I had ADHD, realizing it took me till I was 32 to actually go see a doctor about it, despite thinking of myself as a very like woo-woo, thoughtful person. I started this podcast about just talking to people like you or, random people or just myself about our, I think everyone's an authority on your own experience, what your brain does to you, why it's good and why it's bad, and the sort of mental health stuff you struggle with. So check that out. It's iTunes, it's all over the place, or patreon.com/mygoodbadbrain. You can find it there too. But just search My Good Bad Brain. You'll find it. It's fun.
I'm going to be a guest one soon.
Yeah. So sometimes it's with guests and we just talk about that. Like it's very existential. It's kind of just freewheeling talky stuff. Like I always like those podcasts that just like talk for like you don't even have to pay attention always. You like listen for a few hours.
5 hours.
Yeah. I mean like a little bit. I literally was like, Joe Rogan is like this huge popular podcast. People just talk for 3 hours on there. And I was like, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
So it's like that sometimes. And then sometimes I call them brain breathers where it's literally just me like noodling about my week and what my brain's been doing to me. And,
Lovely.
they may find some value in that.
Oh, hell yeah.
Try it out.
And if you guys want to follow Melissa and I, our socials are down below, along with the website, don'tblameme.show, guys. Check it out. Figure out where to listen to it. If you're already listening to it on iTunes, hey, leave a review and subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed on the Apple Podcast app, go do that. If you want to watch it again, just want to ingest it twice. There are some people who've been saying that they listen to it and then they watch it.
Oh, nice.
And if you guys have if you're a previous caller who has had a callback, or if previous caller who's continued to like live your life and maybe you've done some of the stuff or the advice that we gave, we would love to hear an update from you. Or if you just have like a, maybe it was about a breakup and then you got a new boyfriend. And just like, we'd love to know. So give us a call at 310-694-0976. And also you can give us a call if you need advice on anything in your life. Maybe you have some commentary on some of the advice that we gave in this episode or a previous one that you'd like us to include. And we will see you guys next week. Oh, we have an Instagram. Follow us. Don't blame me. Pod. Sorry.
It's in the notes too.
It's in the notes. Don't blah meme pod. Okay. Bye, guys. Don't Blame Me is a production by me, produced, directed, and edited by Melissa DeMons. Post-production sound by Chris Henry, production assistant Julie Carley, and music by Giacomo Picasso and Ryan Hunter. I'll see you guys next week, and don't blame me if your life, completely fucks up before then. Oh.